Live with the Regen Nation podcast. This is like an emergency podcast. When I say emergency, it's not an emergency. It's like a last minute, spur of the moment podcast, just with the breaking news from last night within the last 24 hours. And I couldn't do this by myself, so I had to get my buddies, my Tesla buddies that know everything about Tesla, that follow all the Tesla stuff, and some other guys, if they do come on later, I'll invite them in. The more the merrier. But yeah, for now we have Paul from Electric Canuck and his green screen. How you doing, Paul?
Yeah. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Okay, no, that's good. Thanks for coming on, buddy. Thanks for coming on. And we have a twin set right below if you're watching live. And we have a twin set right below if you're watching live. And I'm hearing an echo of myself.
Is it us?
Was it you guys? I don't know.
I just put earbuds in, so it can't be me.
Oh, it's gone now. Whoever it was, that's fine. You know what? This is the beauty of live streaming.
Yes.
Like I was introducing the guys below. Franklin and Aaron down below. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Hi. Thanks for having us. Oh, Aaron was playing around with this stuff. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. No problem. I could just imagine the people that are listening for the first time. They're like, what are these guys doing? This is their first time.
These amateurs.
They're amateurs. No, we're
very ad hoc. We set up
to be professional in any stretch of the imagination.
So, about like 10 minutes ago, I told Aaron, hey, you're going to be on a podcast with me. And we did like a very fast setup.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Listen, this is when did I ask you guys? Like maybe noon, 11 o'clock or so. Like,
yeah,
it was very, very last minute in my. I mean, not very last minute, not the last minute, but for all intents and purposes, I consider this last minute when you're asking the people to be on your show like the same day, and I put it out on Twitter maybe like 3 or 4 hours ago. So, whoever watches it, whoever's joining, that's great. That's awesome. Thanks for joining us. Whoever these guys that are on as guests, thanks for joining and helping me out, guys. The funny thing is, when we do these shows and I have guests on, you guys can attest to this. I usually give you guys, not a heads up. Well, I guess a heads up for lack of a better word, but I can tell you what the topics are. And sometimes we come on about 10, 15, sometimes 20 minutes before to just get all the mics adjusted and the cameras and all that adjusted and work out the kinks. And sometimes we start talking about what we're going to talk about on the show. This time, we haven't talked about anything. So I don't even know where you guys stand on this. This could be very interesting. I hope it's very interesting. I found it interesting. And is that a muffin, Aaron? Oh, that's what you.
Yeah, from your sponsor.
My sponsor? I don't have a sponsor.
Tim Hortons.
Hey, listen. If Tim Hortons wants to sponsor this podcast, they're more than.
Hey, Raymond.
They are more than welcome. I will.
I was gonna quote an Aerosmith song since these guys are eating some muffins. There, you ain't seen nothing until you're down on a muffin. But I don't think they were talking about Tim Hortons. But
there's an insane muffin stash here when I showed up.
Left the elevator.
We can't talk about that.
Oh, okay. Yes. We can't talk about the muffin stash on air, but we get a lot of muffins.
I've lost. It's 4 minutes in. I've lost complete control of this.
Yes.
Okay, what we're talking about tonight, and if you saw the thumbnail and the tweet that I tweeted out, we're talking about the Ford and Tesla. I don't want to call it merger because it's not a merger. They're still separate companies, but the partnership when it comes to NACS, the North America charging standard, that was, in my opinion, a bombshell that both Elon and Jim dropped last night on Twitter in what's that called? Spaces? Is that what it is? Yeah. So it was. I don't know if that was like planned. I know they went live and just like this is live. The beauties of live streaming, because they had some hiccups. Just like I guess we had some hiccups. Not that I'm comparing ourselves to them, but They announced within like it was like a 28-minute space. It's like what's it called? A stream, a space, like
Twitter space.
a Twitter space. In that 28 minutes, I think it was, or 30 minutes, they talked about a lot of things, but their main announcement and why they went on was to announce. And let me pull it up here. Like I said, the partnership between them. Between
while you're pulling up, I just want to mention, Raymond, I'm sorry I haven't gotten any videos. For some reason, I can't post in the chat. I think Dax isn't allowing me to. So, but I've just been very busy, so I apologize for that.
I haven't even looked at the chat till now. I don't know why you can't post. You could. Oh, you know what? You can post. Franklin, are you post? You're not posting from here. You're posting from YouTube, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's a better idea.
Yeah, you could post from the YouTube stream itself. But yeah, I don't know people, the guests here on this streaming platform can post to YouTube while it's.
No, I don't think you can. You have to go. Anyway,
okay.
It's funny that we were talking about this exact thing maybe like 10 minutes ago. We went for like a quick walk. We had like a really good conversation. So
about this topic.
Yeah, it'd be fun to hear what you guys think, and we're gonna rehash because we had different opinions. And
yeah, I think. Well, first of all, I'll try to do my best, and you guys stop me and correct me if I butcher this, but I'll try to give a quick but also thorough breakdown for anyone that hasn't followed this and what's going on. I mean, I could probably just read the Drive Tesla Canada article that Darren put up here, but I'll try to sum it up better than that, or quicker than that. So basically, Tesla, a few months ago, if not late last year, announced that they wanted to give out to the public or suggest or donate their standard of charging, and they called it the North American Charging Standard, NACS for short, NACS. Now, this wasn't you didn't have to, like all the other people that are using CCS didn't have to, but I guess Tesla was just saying they think that their charging approach and equipment is, superior to what else is out there. And if anyone doesn't know what else is out there, it's CCS that's out there here in North America. And I'm talking about fast charging. If you're talking about, which is level 3, if you're talking about level 2, it's going to be J1772. Tesla's not doing anything of that, but they're talking about public chargers when you're on a road trip, destination chargers, stuff like that. That's for a quick charge, and then you keep going, not overnight stuff. So, which is, I'm talking about level 3. So they came up with this North American charging standard, and when they did, a bunch of people said, "Oh, this is good. Tesla's going to make the standard." And I think that a lot of those people were pro Tesla or people that believed in Tesla and backed Tesla. The other people that had other EVs, the other OEM EVs that were CCS, I know a lot of people. There was a lot of backlash in terms of, "Oh no, Tesla. Who does Tesla think they are? They can't dictate what the standard is, and no one's going to follow this." Or jump on board. No OEMs are going to jump on board. Tesla's just in a pipe dream. Well, no one did up until yesterday. Well, sorry, I shouldn't say that. What's that three-wheeled startup in California with the solar panels? I always forget their name. I want to call them Arcimoto, but it's not Arcimoto. It's the other one. You guys. Anyone know?
Oh, did they take up Tesla's standard?
They haven't even produced a car yet. They're a startup that they're supposed to be.
You're talking about Aptera?
Aptera. Yeah. They've said that they're going to use NACS and a Tesla port and charger and stuff like that. But other than them, and they're just a startup, so they're small. They haven't even delivered anything yet. So even though they were the first, they really don't count because no one has done it. No OEMs, no one that has actual EVs on the road that are selling them or producing them has until last night. So Ford decided, you know what, they're going to do it. And now that I think, and you know what, I figured someone would eventually do it. I didn't know the timeline or time frame. I would be lying to you if I said, "Oh yeah, I knew that they were going to do it in mid 2020." I had no idea when, but eventually, maybe I shouldn't say I hope. Maybe I shouldn't say I knew. Maybe it's better to say I hope that they would, and they did. Did I think it was going to be one of the big threes like Ford? Absolutely not. If I had to guess, I would have thought it would have been like Rivian or maybe Lucid, like another pure EV, like a startup or a smaller company, maybe Polestar or something like that. Did I ever think it was going to be Ford? Never. But this is great.
The only thing that surprises me about this announcement is that it hasn't happened sooner. Like, I can't believe that it has taken this long for the other manufacturers of EVs to realize that if you don't have a charging network that's reliable, you're dead in the water. You're not going to be able to sell your cars, or if you do, people will never buy another one, and it's going to sour people on EVs altogether. So I'm going to put my cards on the table and say I'm super happy about this, as long as the caveat is, as long as they invest the money, whatever Ford is paying them or whatever they're going to charge Ford users for using it, to invest back into the network and make sure the network can scale so that we don't have to pull up to a supercharger and have to wait to charge. So it needs to scale with the demand. But I think that will happen.
I think so too. I think with the revenue they're going to get from the government and the revenue that they're going to get from their partners like Ford right now, and I can just see, like, I'm willing to bet right now within the next 2 weeks there'll be another OEM.
Oh yeah, like
the floodgates are open now.
Something like this could literally save Lucid
or
Rivian,
right?
Yeah, because Rivian. Go ahead.
No, you're right, Paul. I think anyone who wants to buy an EV that's not a Tesla, the biggest drawback is the charging network, because you can't go across country. Like, the charging network outside of Tesla's, it exists, but it's not great. The fact that Ford is the first one is actually insanely big for Tesla for this to become a thing.
Oh yeah.
Like the Ford, so Aaron and I, this is what we were talking about on the walk. The Ford F-150 Lightning, or the Ford F-150, forget the Lightning aspect of it, has been the number one selling vehicle in North America, or in the top 3 or whatever, for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, talking to people that, never mind would not buy an EV, but there would be the type of people that would be actively talking bad about an EV, and they've tested a Ford F-150 Lightning, and they're like, oh my God, this is the greatest vehicle ever. We need to flip. If Ford can scale that truck, that will be the number one selling EV. And I think the fact that they're using the standard is a massive positive for Tesla.
Yep.
I think the net positive gain in this transaction is to Ford, right? Maybe long term, from an energy perspective, if Tesla turns into an energy company as well as an EV company and a software company and an AI company, but if they start, if they were to spin off an energy division, this could be a big win, because you're going to be earning tons of money from now your energy distribution and that kind of stuff. So in the long term, definitely a win for Tesla. Short term, huge win for Ford. Huge, in my opinion.
Yeah, and for owners of EVs right now, and anyone that has a Mach-E or Lightning right now, their cars have just gone up in value overnight.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and not only gone up in value, but usability has gone up like 1,000%. Now, well, not yet, not technically right now, but what are they saying? By the end of next year, they'll have the adapter, or no, the beginning of next year they'll have the adapter, and Ford will be, all their dealers will be selling it, and Elon said it's not going to be too expensive.
I saw just the other day, I was at an outlet mall, and they have some brand of CCS fast charging. I don't know. It was at an outlet mall north of Toronto. It wasn't, Electrify Canada or anything like that, but it was, CCS fast chargers. And this guy was charging his Lightning, and he was super happy with the vehicle, right? Like this is the first time I'd seen it. I've seen one like up close and in person.
Oh, yeah?
And the guy was thrilled. So I've always been, as you know, very pro Tesla. I've owned Tesla since 2017. I haven't owned any other manufacturer vehicle. But I just want to see the adoptions of EVs in general. Love Tesla, but let's see some other manufacturers also sell a ton of cars because it's net good for the planet, right?
I wanted to chime in one sec.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's interesting that you said that it's the first time you've seen a Lightning in person. I think it's really important to highlight that the subtle in the design. Like it's hard to tell that it's an EV unless you're literally looking at the badging on the side of it. So I've seen a lot of these in the Toronto area, and it's usually because whenever I see an F-150, I'm like, oh, is that a Lightning? And I look, but like that, you can't necessarily tell the difference between an electric F-150 and a non-electric. The design's very similar. So I would encourage people, if they do see an F-150, look for the badging and see if it's actually a Lightning, because there's a lot of them on the road.
Yeah. And like I said, the owner was super happy with it. Like,
what did you think about it, Paul? Did you get to see inside?
I did. And you know, this, I might take us into a Cybertruck conversation here as a segue. But, you know, like I'm not a huge pickup person. I have owned a pickup before in the past. It's typically not my style. I don't love them. But that being said, I see like the utility in the design from Ford. Right? It's pretty much true to what people are expecting a pickup to be, right? Who are going to be using it for things like throwing stuff in the bed, or, you know, whether it's the casual person or a work person who's like, you know, lugging their tools around or whatever. And I'm concerned with the Cybertruck, especially with the recent pictures. I don't know if you have a link handy, Dax, but those recent pictures of the interior, I don't know. I don't know about this design anymore. When I look at the F-150, you know, that's kind of what I think about when I think about a pickup truck. And that's kind of the conversation I had with this guy who bought the Lightning, right? You know, he was just looking for a traditional type of pickup truck that he could use, not the Cybertruck. So it was an interesting conversation. What do you guys think? Silence in the room. Dax is stunned. What?
I know.
Paul
I'm trying to
like
find the picture of the Cybertruck for you.
Oh, okay. Just the interior is like, objectively speaking, the interior is fugly. Let's be honest. That steering wheel's fugly. You could fit a person on the dash in front of it. The A-pillars are so big. You can see how it obstructs the view. Like, this is not a functional design.
That's
compared to, you know, a regular pickup truck.
It's a wheel yoke. It's a wheel yoke, essentially, is what it is.
Well, they call it a woke.
Yeah, it's woke.
It's woke. Oh no,
it's woke. Well, you know, I guess you can get it on with someone at the front on your dash there if you wanted to. Maybe, I don't know.
You know what?
If you're small enough.
This is my like data point that I have, and it's like I said, it's just I know two people that own one now, and it's the same experience that you said, Paul. They were just blown away. And it's not just them. Like, they showed all their friends that have like traditional gas versions, and they tried the EV version, and they're like, oh my God, we got to get one. So you have all these people that have orders now, and there's like 15 of them that they're getting, and it's like they're absolutely blown away. And I think it's like the whole butts and seats thing. But it's for
You're talking about the Lightning, right? Not the
about the Lightning.
Obviously.
Yeah, about the Lightning.
Yes.
I think it's going to go a lot longer. It's going to be a better selling vehicle than the Cybertruck, because the Cybertruck's design is not for everybody.
I was having. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. This doesn't look good.
I was having this conversation. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, do we know how many F-150 Lightnings Ford has sold? Because again, I see them all the time on the road in Toronto, like on the 401, the highway running through Toronto. I see them all the time. And to me, that's surprising for a relatively new electric vehicle, because traditionally in Canada, we're not usually getting them until much later in the production cycle for these vehicles. But it seems like almost from day one, they're actually selling a lot here. So I don't know if that's reflective of their production capacity to make these vehicles, or if that's just strategy. They're selling a lot in this area.
Well,
So I'm curious if we have any numbers.
Yeah, to answer your question, Aaron, I just Googled it. As of the end of April, Inside EVs have broken it down and said that Ford has sold 3,600 Lightnings so far this year. Now,
That's it?
yeah,
Wow.
and I don't know how many last year. That's just between January and the end of, so basically 4 months. Keep in mind, they stopped production for a little while. They had those battery fire issues. And now they've fixed that, and now they're selling them again. I don't know in total. This quick Google search didn't give me the total, but you can get some kind of idea. 3,600, so what? Maybe just about 1,000 a month. They're selling.
So
maybe it's possible. I'm curious, like distribution wise, where they're selling them. Maybe they're more popular at the moment in like metropolis areas, bigger cities. Maybe because of the EV infrastructure, maybe because of people are more open to EVs and they've just been waiting for a truck.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You know what? It's funny you say that, because I was thinking that just this weekend. It was a long weekend here in Canada, and I was coming back from up north, and I must have passed in these small little towns, just about 2 hours north of the Greater Toronto area, and I must have passed 2 or 3 Ford dealerships, which up there, their dealerships are predominantly trucks that are on the lot. And I saw no less than 2 or 3 Lightnings on the lot. A lot of them were like right at the front entrance, showcasing it. Yeah. So I thought to myself, are these just the dealer ones? They're not selling them, or are they for sale? Because if they're for sale, like, I don't know.
Well, that's it. Go ahead.
The person I know that bought theirs, they got theirs because it was a dealer one, and they did not want to sell it. And he ended up convincing them. They went through a lot of paperwork to sell it, because he went for a test drive with it. Then he said, "Hey, I have to have this. Let's make it happen." And they weren't
pay a lot.
He
I'm
paid.
sure he did.
He only. Well, I'm gonna say only. He paid $8,000 over the sticker price just to take it off the dealership.
Wow.
Okay.
I thought you were allowed to do that in Canada, but anyways.
No, it was not in Canada. That's probably why. But
it wasn't here. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm just saying they were really happy with their. Like, listen, they were, to this day, they're still very happy with their purchase. They said they would have paid more than that just to get it. Like, they're very, like I said, the company ordered 15 more. All their friends are ordering them. Like, it's become a hot thing because everyone wants to see it. Everyone wants to talk to them about it. It is like an improved version of the gas version, and everyone's like, "Hey, we have to have this." And these are all people that would never be caught in an EV. If you told them, like, before they ever saw it, they'd be like, "Yeah, no way," And their minds have changed totally. And I think that's an testament to what Ford has done.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Ford played it safe, and I'm not criticizing them by saying that. They played it safe when they brought it out. They did something, and just like I think Chevy's doing the same thing with the Sierra, they made what is very familiar and recognizable truck in terms of shape completely opposite of what Tesla did, as we all know, and so their existing customers can embrace it or adapt to it or adopt it that much easier. So it was a smart move on Ford's part.
I think that's when it comes to a pickup truck, right? Like, if you look at the marketplace for a pickup truck, right? I mean, if you deviate too far from that, like the Cybertruck, right? The question that I have is, who's the target market for Cybertruck? So the best I can come up with is it's going to be super fans who will buy it because it's Tesla, right? That's one group that I think Tesla can sell to. I think Tesla can also sell to the people who are super concerned about their safety in a post-apocalyptic world. Maybe that's another group that they can sell it to.
If it is like they say it is.
Yeah, bulletproof, yada yada. So like, functionally speaking, right? I just have questions about it versus something like a Lightning, right?
Well, I think to extend like the second group there, maybe, and I was thinking this when you were sharing some of the pictures earlier, it looks a lot more like one of those armored vehicles you'd see like embassies using in countries that are, The roads between buildings, between secured buildings, are maybe questionable. Like that would be potentially
They want to
a
sell to the
market.
military.
Exactly. So selling to government, selling to military, that might be a viable option. Because from a price point standpoint, that's always, whenever you try to take a car and make it armored and everything, like that gets really, really pricey. But if at a regular truck price, they can deliver those same features, then it becomes kind of a no-brainer for governments to essentially buy that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, it's gonna, because of this back to the original kind of content for the show, right? Talking about Ford and adopting Tesla's charging standard, this is going to be a really great test, because now you've eliminated whether or not you can go on a long trip and reliably charge your vehicle. So will people choose a Cybertruck, or will they choose a Lightning? And it's going to be great we'll be able to see this data, as long as Ford can increase their production capability, right? It's going to be very interesting to see what this result is going to be and how it's going to impact Cybertruck.
Can I talk about the only downside to this whole thing?
What's that?
So this is my thought process. So they're going to be using Tesla superchargers, and the supercharger, like what do they call it, NAC, the North American
NACS, North American Charging Standard.
The standard, yeah. I don't know if Ford can put up their own chargers using that standard.
So I was just doing like 10 minutes of research at the top of the call while you guys were talking. So Ford already, I guess, has, or they're partnered with a network called Blue Oval Charging Network, and they actually apparently have like over 10,000 fast chargers already within North America. And then the supercharger network will add 12,000 to their existing 10,000 that are available to Ford vehicles. So my understanding is Blue Oval, I guess, is using CCS today.
Well, Blue Oval is actually a collection of providers, right?
Okay.
So it's Electrify America, probably ChargePoint, Ivy. I don't know. It's so Blue Oval, I think, was Ford's attempt to try to have a single experience for their drivers, or as far as charging goes. But they don't own any superchargers. It's just
I guess what I'm trying to say is, if Tesla owns the entire experience, right, and every company comes onto this system, if you don't allow third-party people to create their own superchargers or their own charging network using the same standard, you're essentially creating a monopoly of a charging experience. While the Electrify America is not a great experience, it is still vastly cheaper than a supercharger right now. We don't want to go down the path where a single company owns the entire charging infrastructure. It's good if you're an investor in Tesla, sure, but I'm talking as an end user experience. It's not good to have one person control and set the prices for all charging infrastructure across all vehicles.
So what's interesting on that point, so when Tesla announced that they were opening up the North American charging standard, one of the things they said specifically in their announcement was that network operators already, I'm quoting here, network operators already have plans in motion to incorporate NACS at their chargers, so Tesla owners can look forward to charging at other networks without needing adapters. So it sounds like we may see an announcement from a network provider, another network provider other than Tesla, that they'll start to use this adapter. And so I'm wondering if maybe this announcement by Ford is kind of pushing that forward to be able to, I think this is the biggest first step we've seen outside of Tesla themselves opening up the network, showing others actually adopting it. And so I'm wondering almost if this is kind of the first step to CCCS kind of disappearing.
In North America, maybe,
yeah. I'm good. Like, what I'm trying to say is, I'm good as long as we have one standard and it's the best standard possible. But you also want to allow other people to make it. Like USB-C, so many people can make USB-C. It's a good standard. It works for laptops, tablets, everything. It's a universal cable. Or it was a good gas pumping story. But for the most part, you go to a gas station, and I say for the most part, you can go to the gas station and pump up nice and easy. Yes. You don't need to worry about the connection type. So you want a standard. But what I'm saying is you can't have a monopoly of the standard, right? You want to see the third parties jump on. So I'm glad to see Ford do it, but you also want to see charging network providers get the same.
I think that is happening, and I think it will happen because it's economics, right? So once you establish that there's money to be made, right? Like Tesla, I think with its supercharging network is demonstrating, you see entrance to the market, and they'll, hopefully they can choose the NACS or whatever the acronym is, and we'll have other providers that are using that standard, because you're right. That's what works about gasoline powered vehicles is you pull up to a gas station, you know that you're going to be able to put gas in your car. So I do see that happening. I don't think there'll be a monopoly, right? And I think it's going to force the other providers to compete on quality, right? Yeah. Which is very important, because we know that there are issues with the other third-party, CCS providers in terms of reliability. So I think this is going to force them to up their game, because no one's going to use an unreliable network.
Well,
right?
That brings up a good question, Paul. Up their game, but up their game for what? Because if what happens, what we think will happen, I think we all agree that what we suspect is going to happen now that the Ford has started this avalanche, and other OEMs will follow, and it'll just be the whole domino effect. So best case scenario, we actually turn this NACS into a North American standard. So what happens with CCS and all these public chargers? Do they have to all retrofit all theirs? Do they have to jump on board the NACS adapter or charge standard? If all these, in another 2 years, all these manufacturers are producing cars with the NACS charge port, what's going to happen to CCS unless these companies are going to just get into the business of making adapters?
Well, I think part of that might fall under the whole reliability conversation. So we already know today that a lot of these other charging networks that are using CCS just don't work. Like, you show up to them, they're not working. They probably haven't worked in weeks. Nobody's even come out to look at it. And I'm almost wondering if it's just going to be a natural progression where these are just going to eventually be removed because nobody maintained them, and people just gravitate to the networks that actually work.
That's how it should happen. Yeah.
I want to see this taken one step further, actually, now that we're talking about it all. I want to see my car be able to pull up to any NAC charger, third party or not, and it's automatically linked to my account. I don't have to fiddle around with payment systems and stuff. Well,
that brings up an interesting question. So this announcement from Ford doesn't have a lot of details. It does say there's going to be an adapter for cars that are currently out there with CCS ports. And then for their new cars that they produce, they'll end up having, it says the NACS standard port. I don't know if that means they'll have both NACS and CCS.
They won't have both. They'll have just one. It's going to be
so if that's the case, then they're going full in on NACS.
Yeah,
then
definitely.
And so that'll be an interesting question for the Blue Oval network, what that means if they can't plug into those adapters anymore. That means they're actually switching to superchargers instead. At least
they'll have to. They'll probably keep them around till the 2025 when their new design comes out with the NACS thing. But I think what they'll have to do, because I think what Tesla's doing, at least with this Ford deal, Aaron's right, there weren't huge specific details, but what Jim and Elon were talking about last night's what's it called, Spaces, they were talking about the software and everything, and how it's not going to be limited to the supercharger, it'll be limited to the car. So it sounds like Tesla is it's a package deal, as well as that they're selling them or licensing out this NACS thing. They're also licensing out the API and the software. So
that is interesting.
Yeah, they'll have full control. From what I understand, next year when these adapters go, it's not going to be like how it is now with the Magic Dock, where you're going to have to go to the Tesla app, say you're in Tower 2B, and then activate Tower 2B, and it'll unlock it, and then you plug it in. It'll be, as far as what I took from the talk last night, it's going to be seamless, like how Teslas are, where you just go up to it, plug it in, your car talks to the tower, and it starts charging.
I think that actually solves a problem that I experienced the other week. I went from Toronto to Albany on business, and I stayed in a couple of hotels while I was on that trip, and both hotels had Chargepoint, and with Chargepoint, you have to have the app. You have to do a minimum load. You have to load cash to your so, and it was $30, right?
Minimum is
So
30 now?
yeah, so
10.
I thought it used to be 10, but it was 30. And so anyhow, I've got like a balance now of like $23 on Chargepoint.
Has your money, and God knows when you'll use it next.
For
Yeah,
people
exactly.
that use Chargepoint, just like a tip, I have a Chargepoint card. It's like an NFC card that you can ask for. I don't know if they it used to be free.
It's free.
It's free. So
Is
I
it?
highly
Okay.
recommend everyone to ask for one, because if you're ever in a place that doesn't have service or whatever, you can still charge your car. I find it's vastly more reliable than the app itself. And I just have it sitting in my car. I have a balance on there. I find Chargepoint is, at least where we are in Canada, there's a lot of Chargepoint locations versus any other third-party thing I've ever seen. There's more Chargepoint than anything else. So I rather
they do have a lot.
Yeah, so I rather have a balance of Chargepoint because I've used it probably a half dozen times in 5 years of ownership. But still, that's a half dozen times that I have a little card. I go tap. It's as seamless as you can get. That's not a Tesla, because I literally just pull up, get my little NFC card, tap it, pull it out, plug in. I'm good to go. That's it.
And I think I'm not sure when they added this functionality, because I used to be annoyed by the app as well. But what I've noticed last time I used it, it actually sort of forced me to set up like you can do it with Apple Pay or Google Pay. So you actually don't need to unlock your phone. You can literally just take your phone, tap it to the charger, and it'll unlock.
Yeah,
NFC. So it's literally almost as easy as the card that Franklin's talking about.
But like I said, I think there's a lot of good opportunity. I just kind of want to see one standard. I mean, obviously Europe will never jump on it.
Your Chargepoint app.
Yeah, Europe has a CCS1. But they're not going to jump on it because they already have their standard. And they didn't give Tesla the choice. Tesla had to adapt to them. So yeah,
they're very big on like
uniform.
Like look at the whole USB-C thing with Apple that's going on. I know that's not relevant. It kind of is.
No, it's along the same lines.
Yeah, so they're like basically forcing Apple to use USB-C, and Apple thought they'd be clever and say, hey, we're going to limit the charge speed if you guys aren't using an Apple USB-C cable. And they quickly shot that down. They're like, no, you guys aren't doing that.
Well, don't worry. Apple's got the final nail in the coffin for the UA. What they're going to do is they're going to go portless, and it's all going to be. They're not going to have a Lightning.
I've heard
they're just going to have a wireless charging.
I've heard that they've made a lot of money off the Lightning cable, and that's why they
the MiFi program.
They make a ton of money off of licensing it and all that. If you think every other product that they have is USB-C, their iPads, their MacBooks, their whatever. I'm just saying it's the Europe's very big on standardization of charging ports, and I do not foresee them flipping to anything but CCS.
I think it'll depend on the charging speed issue. So I guess CCS is limited to 350 kilowatt. Is that correct? I mean, that's what I was reading 10 minutes ago. I don't know.
Right now it is, yeah.
Yeah. So like one of the announcements here with Ford and with Tesla with the NACS standard is it can go up to 1 megawatt or something, 1,000 kilowatt. So that's like that. I don't know. It depends. Like, I think right now, a lot of people find the V3 chargers too fast. So we'll see if we actually need to go above 350. But if there is a need to go above 350, maybe with the transport trucks, like the semi and stuff, then maybe
even the Cybertruck's gonna have a bigger battery, and it's gonna be.
I'm in the camp that I think that the charging speed is already fast enough.
Yeah, you can't even practically go to the bathroom and get a sandwich anymore. It's like
you know what? That's for us because we've experienced when it was slower, and we've experienced home charging and everything. The general public, and I use my buddy as an example, he's considered the general public as far as I'm concerned. He's waiting for it to get on par with gasoline. And I've tried to talk to him about this, wrapping his head around it, and he can't wrap his head around it. But you know what? I chalk it up as he's part of the general public, the majority, the silent majority that, yeah, they don't want to wait. They think 15, 20 minutes is an inconvenience right now because they're accustomed all their life to 5 minutes, but they don't see the other benefits around it, right?
Well, the best way I can explain my experience is like when I got my car, I was able to travel to my friend's house, and on the way there, I'd like stop at a supercharger, I'd go and grab food, and then I'd eat my food, and then I'd come out, and my car would basically be done, and I'd unplug my car and move it. That's great. We're at a point now where I can no longer go in and eat. Okay, so the last time I was eating, I felt so bad. They're ready to bring the check, and I got the little notification in my car, like I have to move it. I'm going to be charged idling fees. And I'm like, shit, I can't leave because she's going to think I'm trying to like leave without paying my bill. But also, she's not bringing back my bill fast enough. I want to go move my car, and then I'll come back and pay the bill. And I was in this
dilemma.
Yeah, and it's like the biggest first world problem. What I'm trying to say is like, if you're, as you guys know, you're at home, you charge up. Aaron's charging my car right now as we speak. You go to a friend's house, you can charge up. Thanks, Aaron. And
on the ultra low 2 cents per kilowatt rate that we just got.
But I'm just saying, like, you can charge up at home. I never check how much charge I have when I leave in the morning because I know I have enough for the day. The only time I ever check it is on a long trip. And I've done so many long trips where I know after 3 to 3.5 hours of driving, I can sometimes get about 4. I want to stop and get a good 20-minute break anyway. I've been stopping at superchargers and going for walks. And it's like, man, it's done already. You know?
Yes.
I'm
the same way.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's really hard to get I think it's hard for people to, it depends on the person, right? It's hard for some people to imagine life working differently than they already know. And so they're trying to find parallels with their current life. Yeah. And so a lot of people use the parallel of charging your phone, right? You go home, you plug it into an outlet, whatever. Like you're not thinking about it. You're not going to the gas station to charge your cell phone, right? And if you did have to go to the gas station to charge your cell phone, you'd be pretty annoyed with the use case of a cell phone, right? So like that is, and most people are not going to use a supercharger on a day-to-day basis unless they live in a like a condo building or apartment building where they don't have charging at home or they can't get charging in their parking spot. That's a whole nother conversation. I actually experienced that like this past winter. I didn't have a home charger for a few months, and it is really painful to use superchargers on a regular basis to charge your car, especially in the winter when like the charging rate is reduced because your battery's cold and so on. So like that's a whole nother problem that needs to be solved. But for people that can charge at home, it's like you just got to get across the fact that you don't go to a gas station anymore, and that's a huge improvement. That's the hard thing to get across to people.
Mm-hmm. No, it'll get there. It'll get there eventually. But yeah, we as, I don't want to say pro EV people, but people that have had EVs and live with them for years now, we get it, and we've adopted it into our lifestyle. But you're right, Aaron. There's certain people out there that don't want to change. They don't like change, and they can't wrap their head around it. And then there's the slim percentage of people in this world that they take a nice, relaxing road trip and they turn it into a competition, and they want to see how far they can drive. It's like a marathon. Like they pee into a bottle and they don't want to stop. They want to make it there in one run, and they want to drive for 6 hours. It's like, relax, people.
6 is not a lot.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Like I know a couple guys that did that across Canada a few years ago.
Sometimes it depends too, right?
Well,
you get it depends.
I got the minute you said it.
Okay, so 2002's Thursday, he brings up a good point. He said, as EVs become mainstream, so will essential, like it has to basically be fast charging to avoid traffic jams. So he wants faster charging. Yeah. I have a really interesting.
They'll always have that. They'll always have traffic jams. There's traffic jams for gas pumps right now. There's a gas station in
Costco.
Yeah, but I feel like this is going to be vastly different. I'm going to give you my take and tell me if you guys think I'm crazy or whatever. A gas station is a building that you go to refill your car, and then you get snacks and whatever you pay, you go on your way.
For me, it's a car wash, but
yeah, for me, I use it to squeegee my windows now and get snacks. But I'm saying, like, people generally go there to fill up their car, and they're not going there for a purpose other than to fill up their car. why, like, Costco is a good example. If you can go in Costco and they can have the chargers in the lot while you're shopping, Costco can make money off of you while you're charging. Plus, they're encouraging you to go inside the store so you can shop around. There's a lot of
And
incentive.
then they nail you with idling fees when you're in there too long.
But, you know, there's another factor here that is at play, is most people are going to charge their car at home, right? So you won't have as much of a need for as many gas stations as there are today, because you obviously you can't fill up your gas car at home. So really, these networks are for primarily when you're traveling on long trips, versus day to day, right? Which
I'm just saying, like, even on long trips, you don't want it like a gas station setup where, I mean,
I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing.
Yeah,
with
no,
you,
I'm totally. You're totally right. You don't need as many. You're spot
Yeah.
on. He's saying highway driving, and I'm right there. Like, I get what he's saying. Highway driving, perfect example.
Yes,
But you ideally want it in a location where you're going to be going anywhere. Anyway, like Walmart would be a brilliant place right now to be like, hey, we're going to put chargers across all our Walmarts.
Yeah.
Even if they started with a couple across all the Walmarts, like they would make so much money from the charging. Plus, those customers are going in to buy stuff. It's like a win-win.
Yeah, I think like
Walmart. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I think if we want to find a force multiplier to get these kind of networks rolled out, it's that find a sponsor that already has the property and already potentially has the power to be able to host these things, like a Walmart or
McDonald's
or Costco or McDonald's.
No, listen, you
know.
do it at McDonald's, 24-hour McDonald's, especially the 24-hour service McDonald's. Those would be the best ones, because now they're like literally serving food 24/7 anyway.
What do you guys think about? I know a lot of people have made an argument, like who are against EVs, have made the argument that our power supply, our ability to generate enough power to satisfy the demand of all the EVs isn't there, or won't be there to meet the demand. Like, do you guys have a perspective on that you've read about? Or I mean, I think it's a bunch of crap.
I have, I was gonna say I have a perspective because I've heard that so many times. People, what I get all the time, and I don't get, I never get anyone asking or posing the question to me down the road in the future. They pose it to me like, okay, so what happens if tomorrow everyone drove an EV, and would the grid be able to support everyone? I'm like, of course not, because tomorrow, not everyone is going to drive an EV. This is going to be a progression, and along with the progression comes the infrastructure growth. It's gonna be hand in hand.
Yeah, just like the gas stations that rolled out back in the day.
Look at the EV adoption on a worldwide percentage. Okay, just if you took the power grid like 5 years ago versus the number of EVs versus the power grid today versus the number of EVs, as the EVs grew, the power grid grew. But I've heard that exact argument, Dex. Like, what if 50% of the cars went to EV tomorrow? It's like, well, yeah, no duh, it's not going to be able to support it. But they're not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be
if we doubled the supply of cars by double tomorrow, gas stations wouldn't support it either. So
exactly.
And that's a much more complicated thing to fix, because you have to go get more oil out of other countries. Like, it's not going to happen. It's a much worse scenario.
I think also, I think one of the things that people are, so the solar is a really interesting topic, and I think it's something that Tesla's not really focusing enough on. I hope Tesla spins their company out into small subsection. Like, solar should be its own subsidy of Tesla now. They should put more weight into it. But the way solar has gone, so I've done calculations, and 10 years ago, the return on investment on my house was like 30 years, and today it's like 20 years. 20 years is still a very long time. It's still not the most optimal. But a 10-year gap over a 10-year times, like, that's a...
But, and you also need to look at it a little bit, like, so there's different incentives now for solar, like the Canada Green or Homes Grant now offers interest-free loans for different things that you can do through the program. That's, so even if you can, so in this program, you get like $5,000 back if you do solar up to a certain size installation, but you can actually get a loan that would cover the cost of that installation, an interest-free loan through the program as well. And so once you start to do the math, like I did the math a few years ago as well, when I was looking at doing solar, and if I was to finance that installation, this was before that interest-free loan existed. So the loan I was looking at actually had an interest on it. It was slightly more expensive to finance the solar installation than it would be to just pay my existing electricity rate. So I could replace my electricity with solar, pay like $20 a month more than I was paying for my electricity bill, but then I would be completely on solar. So like it's very close. Maybe with the interest-free loan, it's already there, where you can essentially get off the grid with solar and be paying the same you would be for your electricity bill. So
that's interesting, Aaron. Was that
right? And in the future, you're just
solar?
gaining money because as the electricity rates go up, you're not paying that new rate. You're
Exactly.
Sorry, Dax, what's your question?
No, that's very interesting scenario that Aaron just said. I'm just curious, Aaron, was that a price or what you calculated there, including battery storage, or is it just
no? So you're still connected to the grid. It's just the like the way it works is if you generate power back into the grid, because in Ontario, you used to be able to get paid for the power you put into the grid. They don't let you do that now. So all you can do is get a credit on your bill. So if you generate more,
that's what I wanted originally.
Yeah. So you can essentially, there's no incentive for you to build a solar system that's bigger than what you need for your own power usage, but you can still there's still some benefit there. And that also helps distribute the energy generation on the grid, so that you don't have to like focus energy generation in one power plant. You can have the whole grid, generate across. Obviously there's more complicated things there.
Like the way I'm seeing it though is think about the progression, right? Like think about where solar was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago versus where it is today.
Yeah.
And then like you have a deadline for cars to convert over to like by 2030, they want to have X number of sales, new sales. We're not talking used sales, new sales. And I think that's where a lot of people fail to understand. It's not like, the used market's going to change, but I feel like the used market's going to change too, because as more EVs come out, there's going to be less gas transferred. You're going to have gas stations shut down, and then you're going to have to be driving further to get your gas. And then it's going to be a lot more expensive because there's going to be less people and the gas is going to be more pricey.
Have you seen the signs around like on like posts where it's like gas stations for sale, or other signs like we buy gas stations?
Yeah, but it's like what I'm trying to say is like as the gas disappears, it's going to be more pricey. You're going to travel further, and it's going to cost more. But I think in 10 years, solar is going to, if it makes that another jump forward the way it has over the last 10 years, 15, 20 years, that progression is going to get like substantially better than where it is today. And I think that's going to offset a lot of the grid.
I did want to step back a second to the grid capacity question, because I saw something the other day, and I don't know how accurate it was. It was trying to make a joke, I think, about Electrify America or one of the other networks, that they were using Tesla batteries at their charging location. So the reality, I guess, that was being described here and shown in this picture is that they actually don't have the power connection to properly power these high speed chargers. Instead, they're buffering the grid's lower power coming into these Tesla batteries, and then using that to dump into the actual EVs charging.
There's a company I saw a couple months ago in the States that's doing that same thing.
So you could imagine. I see a lot of there's a Home Depot near where I used to live. If I fly my drone up, the roof is just covered in solar panels. You see a lot of you see a lot of different organizations, different companies that are doing this now. They're just putting solar on the roof. Yeah. So you could imagine, using solar, dumping that into batteries on site, and that could potentially charge their high-speed chargers, right? And then you have no grid problem, right? Way cheaper to install.
That's what Paul has in his basement there, right there.
Well, I always thought, so any place, any business that has 10 or more locations, by law, has to show you the total number of calories on food that you consume.
Yeah.
I feel like they should take that same law and apply it. So if you have 10 or more locations, you have to be carbon neutral by a certain date, and give them 15, 20 years to convert. If you're a massive company with thousands of locations, it's going to take a long time, but give them enough time to convert, and they'd actually have a lot of cost savings, but it'd also help tremendously. And that would also incentivize them to throw chargers in.
Well, there is actually a lot of regulatory stuff and incentives that exist for companies to go carbon neutral. So a lot of people don't see this, but when you start dealing with larger enterprises, they want to know what kind of carbon credit they're getting for buying these services from you, because whatever product or service you're providing to them is actually helping reduce their carbon footprint, because whatever you do is more carbon neutral than whatever they were doing before for the same thing. And so like there's this whole system of transferring carbon credits around to meet these regulations and meet these credits and stuff. So there's a lot of that already exists. Unfortunately, a lot of it, the credits are kind of just vapor in that they don't necessarily go back to actually solving something. That's the risk of like abstracting this too much from what the actual green stuff is.
Yeah.
But there's stuff out there that needs to be more broadly like leveraged, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to do different things for that.
Yeah, guys, this is I know we went off on a little side note here from what our main topic is, and I want to get back to it. But this is a fascinating conversation, and I like where it's going. Maybe we'll have another dedicated podcast to just talk about renewables and the future of EV charging and stuff like that. Because it was a natural progression how we veered off, and that's fine. But it's interesting how we can get in the future without what all these naysayers think that we don't have the infrastructure, because there's so much reusable energy that's just untapped that we haven't even thought of. Anyways,
a massive sun in the sky,
a giant ball in the sky, like people say. Yeah. What I want to touch on, and I only want to go for another 10 minutes and wrap it up. But what I want to touch on quickly before, and anyone that's hasn't been listening and just joined us, we were talking about the Ford and Tesla partnership with NACS going forward, and their announcement last night. What was another thing, and I apologize, this may just be for Canada, but it's along the same lines that I don't think was really announced. I know Tesla didn't announce it, so I'll just put it up here. Tesla's going to be opening the Canadian supercharging network very, very soon. Well, soon, not very, very soon, for other EVs later this year. And I won't go through the whole entire article that Darren put out here, but basically in a nutshell, Tesla didn't announce this, but it was a government announcement today that talked about giving $35 million investment, and they're going to be putting 3,000 new EV chargers in Ontario, which is, Canada's a big country. It shouldn't just be Ontario, but it is. And I know everyone else in the country hates Ontario because we think that we're the center of Canada, and we're not. But
we're
not. Stop it! You're gonna get other Canadian hate, and Canadians.
It's probably closer to Winnipeg.
Well, anyway, this is they're doing a corridor between Sudbury and Ottawa corridor on the Trans-Canada, and Tesla's involved in this. And they're going to be opening up their chargers, and they're starting. When are they starting? They're starting at the end of the year, and slowly, and then it's going to ramp from there. But I just wanted to touch on that because it's very similar to what we're talking about. Everything seems to be happening fast, or we think it's happening fast with this Ford announcement. But like I said, and I want to get your, I guess we'll go on record and get you guys to put your money where your mouth is. Like we said at the beginning of the show, I say another 2 weeks before another manufacturer announces that they're jumping on a bandwagon. So what I want to get from you guys before we go is I'll go around the table here, and people that are listening, put in the chat too what you think. Who do you think the next OEM or who the next company that's going to jump on board is?
Hold on, Dax. You said 2 weeks, right? In 2 weeks? Is that a real 2 weeks or an Elon 2 weeks?
I think 2 weeks, but okay, whenever it is, whether it's next week, because it may even be next week, because I guarantee you, think about this. After last night's announcement, like surprise announcement, how many boardroom meetings do you think were happening this morning with these big companies like Stellantis and GM? You think Mary Barra was in a boardroom meeting?
She's leading,
scrambling
for the 10
yeah, Volkswagen,
probably.
Yeah. like all these companies. I guarantee you, if not this morning, sometime today or over the weekend, they're going to be talking what their next step is. So whether it's 2 weeks or next week or next month, who do you think the next company is going to be?
Hot Wheels.
I'm thinking Lucid.
I'm thinking Lucid?
Doesn't Lucid have their own charging standard?
No, Rivian is planning on doing what they call the Adventure Network, but I think Rivian is going to fold too. I think it's like a domino. Right? The first domino has fell, right? And the NACS standard is going to become the de facto for North America, is my prediction.
Okay.
Okay.
You
so
guys
got
down
Lucid.
below.
Who do you got?
You got
Aaron?
Lucid from Paul, and you got Lucid and maybe Rivian from Paul. I'll give you 2, Paul.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense for Rivian to now build out this adventure network, or if they do build it out, they should do it on the NACS standard.
Well, it would be stupid for Lucid not to announce it tomorrow because they're having so much trouble selling their cars as it is.
I don't know. I don't know if I can pick a manufacturer, but
okay. I put you on a spot. I didn't mean to.
Okay, I'm going crazy here. VinFast.
VinFast? Are we going to talk about VinFast?
That's what
we're not
picking.
going to talk about.
Oh, you're
No,
just picking VinFast. Okay.
Picking
Are you
VinFast.
serious?
Yeah, why not?
You're joking. Okay.
No, because the inside of they're very Tesla-ish. It makes sense.
Okay. You know who my
I'd
guess
be really
is?
interested.
Well, I get 2.
Go ahead.
GM.
No. Yeah, you know, Paul had 2, so you pick another one.
I mean, I would be really interested to see. And this is not going to happen in 2 weeks, but see what the other geographical areas around the world would do. Like China's an interesting market because they probably have the biggest EV adoption by like numbers, not by like per capita or anything, but by numbers around the world. So, and they have a lot of different EV companies, and they've got huge demand for Tesla in China. I'd be interested to see if Tesla could push this standard beyond the North American market, and if that market would be China next. Because Europe sounds like it would be much harder to get this there.
Wouldn't they have to change the name though? Because it's NACS.
Yeah, they would have to change the
Then
name.
it have to be CAX.
As long as it's pronounced that
Well,
way.
Hussein brings up a good point about Lucid, guys. Hussein says, don't think Lucid can pull it off with Tesla. Elon won't do business with Lucid CEO.
And I agree with that.
They did leave on bad blood, those 2. And what's his name again? What's the Lucid CEO? I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Rollinson, right?
Rollinson, yeah.
Rollinson.
So there's always one rule that applies in business that we have to remember.
Don't bring
and
your
that's
bridge.
bullshit. What is it? Money talks, bullshit walks.
Yeah, but it's Elon. He doesn't care about losing money.
Well, he's got shareholders to answer to.
No, not really.
He doesn't. Yeah, not really.
In theory, he has shareholders to answer to.
Okay, let me guess. I think, and I'm going to pick 2 because you picked 2, but my main one, I'm thinking it's going to be Hyundai. Hyundai's pretty smart.
You don't think Toyota's going to do it with like Toyota?
No, see, I'm pretty serious, Franklin. I'm not making any jokes because to even bring up Toyota's name in this conversation tonight would be a joke because they are a joke right now.
Yeah, like what's the name of the BZ4F? What's the name of their EV again? BZ something.
Before wheels fell off or something.
Yeah, something like that. Okay.
So yeah, I think Hyundai, and if not Hyundai, my second pick, which Hyundai is my first, my second pick would be Volkswagen. I'm going big. I'm thinking like because if Ford, one of the biggest North American big 3, can do it, and I didn't think it was going to be Ford. So
Volkswagen,
why not go
from like a
the whole
Porsche
Volkswagen
or like
the whole group? He's picking the whole group. That's a smart pick because he can get anyone in the group, and he's right.
Well, I'm curious if it'll be a charging network that makes the next announcement, not necessarily a manufacturer.
Yeah, it could be a charging network because they'd be like I said earlier, they'd be stupid not to because their business plan is dead in the water if all these OEMs go and they don't. I mean, unless they change their business plan to adapters.
I'm going back to what I said about the domino, right? The first domino has fallen and all the other ones are just going to follow her. It's just a matter of time. Yeah. It's not if, it's when.
I think you'll probably see more charging networks pop up because the standard's already been set up. It's already like documented. It's already out there. and like it's way simpler to set up these charging stations than it is to set up the CCCS ones. So
And they're profitable.
And yes, and it's less costly or too. I read.
I was just telling Aaron.
It is profitable because a lot of these companies that pop up there are getting it's down in the States. A lot of these public charging networks are government funded. They give them a lot of money. So they give them money, and you think they care if their network goes down 2 weeks later? No, they don't care. They've already got their money from the government. They're counting their money. They're too busy counting than go and flipping the switch and fixing it. So that's the problem.
You're not realizing the long term. There's like a long-term revenue that could be had, especially if they're selling a service or goods while you're waiting, while your charges. Like there's a lot of money to be had if they're doing it right.
So maybe that's why so many of them don't work, is they're just, the funding model is not actually people paying for the charge. It's these government incentives to set them up initially.
That's exactly it, Aaron. That's exactly it. Yeah, it's sad, but it's true.
Well, and that's why there's a difference, right? One last thing there, the difference between Tesla and the other auto manufacturers is Tesla owns the charging network. So to sell their cars, they need working chargers. The other manufacturers don't really have this problem because they're not owning the charging problem. So
yeah, and Tesla never had government incentives. They do now. I'll fully admit it now with the money coming in from the government. They will now, but they didn't before, and they've come all this way without government funding for their superchargers. They did it all on their own. Okay. The last thing I want to say about and then I'll get your guys' last takes. The last thing you guys were talking about, the F-150, the Lightning and stuff like that. You know what? Before this announcement last night, I'm going to be fully honest. I've been looking, and I don't know if I told you guys, I've been looking. I went camping this weekend, and I was talking to my buddies that all have pickup trucks, and they were talking to me about the Cybertruck, if I'm getting it still and this and that. And these people aren't EV people, so they have no idea, right? So I said to them, like probably 80% of people that have reservations for the Cybertruck, I'm waiting to see what the price is going to be, because I'm not a rich millionaire. I can't afford it if it's too expensive. I'm obviously have a budget, right? So I'm waiting to see how much it's going to be. If it's too much, I'm going to be sadly disappointed, and I won't be able to get it because I'm not going to, live outside my means. Then I'm going to start looking at, and I've already looked, just testing the waters just to see what's out there. Rivian, I think, is going to be too expensive too. And that's a ways away. I think the Cybertruck will come before my Rivian reservation in Canada. Here it comes. So yeah, I was looking at the Lightning, and believe it or not, I was on Auto Trader, and there's a lot. When I say a lot, there's at least a dozen or dozen and a half Lightnings for sale with low mileage on it on Auto Trader. A lot of them are dealers. A lot of them, and then some of them are private sales.
Good prices,
I guess. Decent prices. Now, the only thing I have to do my homework I haven't figured out is the battery size. If like some of them, it's about the price. It's a range. I mean, I saw some as low as low 70s to mid 70s, all the way up to like 120. So I think the 120 is the platinum one with all the bells and whistles. But the ones that are 70, I'm wondering if that's the lower battery pack, the smaller battery pack. I'm guessing it is. And then there's ones in the low 80s to mid 80s. And I think that's where I would be comfortable. But, what scares me is, once again, is and I said this to my friends when we were camping last week, and I said, what scares me is the public infrastructure. And then last night, this announcement comes. So I'm like, And even my wife, when I told her the news this morning, she's like, oh, so you're thinking of getting a Lightning now, aren't you? And I'm like, no, I'm not telling you this because I'm thinking of getting Lightning. I'm telling you this that now it takes my plan B, my rare plan B, makes it a lot more, feasible. So
like an A2.
And I don't think I'm in the same. I'm in the boat by myself. I think a lot of people are probably going to start doing that, looking at options now. This whole announcement, there's so many facets of it. It's not just the charging net. There's so many things that it's going to start making people think about.
It's not to rehash everything, but it's kind of like what Paul said. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what people pick. Traditional truck that has a really good interior, good build quality and everything, and that has a charging network that's no longer a disadvantage versus the Cybertruck, and where does it balance off? Like, who's going to go with what? And I really see the F-150 Lightning being the winner out of the two. So,
well, yeah, I don't think they're going to have it for very, very long. because Ford's already talking about the next generation of their pickups, the T3.
Okay.
No one knows what it looks like, but it's supposed to be like a different architecture and everything. Yeah. A whole new truck. So I don't know. Maybe they're going stainless steel too. Who knows? There's some rumors out there, but nobody knows. Probably.
I'm sure in the end, like Ford's new product will still be functional versus, function over form, right? People who want pickup trucks, I think, are looking for function, right? Most of them.
Yeah.
Most of them. I wouldn't even. I'd say maybe half of them, because in the States, a lot of people own pickup trucks that don't utilize it to its potential or to what it's actually used. And I guarantee you that is going to even be worse with the Cybertruck, because, like you said at the beginning of the show, Paul, all these diehard Tesla fans that have no business owning a Cybertruck or a truck in general, and probably never owned it in their life, are going to buy this just because it's a Tesla.
Yes,
there's going to be a lot of those people.
Yeah,
it's very like, I feel like there's a very binary take on the Cybertruck. Either you love it or you hate it.
Well, I'm wondering if it really comes down to kind of what we were talking about. The Cybertruck has maybe a different target audience, and yeah, you can say like the Tesla super fans like that. I'm not really including that. I'm thinking from a functional standpoint, who is the target audience? We were talking about government, but one thing I wanted to throw in there is like police forces. Like they've been adopting here and there. You're seeing them adopt Model 3s or Model Ys into the force. You see some publicity around that, but both of those vehicles I think are kind of awkward probably for a police force. Like either they're too small or they're just like expensive to fix. Like they get, if they get damaged, and those vehicles are going to get damaged all the time. Like maybe a Cybertruck is kind of like the perfect fit for them, more so than say an F-150.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe
if the price
too big
makes sense. Yeah.
Forces.
Yeah. And if they can get the range, if they can get the range and the price, then
yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So guys, I'll just go around the table, get your takes. I know your takes, but maybe just wrap up or tell us again what your take is on this Ford Tesla partnership announcement. Starting at the bottom.
You go first.
You guys?
Oh, okay.
Rock, papers. No.
So I think the NACS standard, I think from like a technical standpoint, makes sense to go that way. I'm glad that somebody in the field is actually taking the initiative to push this forward, even if it means they're backtracking on some of the stuff they already did by rolling out CCS with their vehicles. I think that it's going to be the first thing to fall to knock the rest of the field down that way. Yeah, I think that's my take.
My take is it's extremely positive, and I hope one day Tesla regrets the naming convention.
Paul?
I also think it's very positive. One thing that we didn't talk about that's also positive is it's like a quarter the size of the stupid CCS plug.
You know what?
So I'm just going to throw that out there at the end.
I had props and everything, and we got off onto different topics. And I was going to show what the CCS is now, what adapter we're using now for the other way, and how the new adapter that Ford is going to have is going to be the opposite of this adapter. But anyways, I just wanted to show it. Thanks.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. It's huge. Well, the other one's going to be huge too. But yeah, no, you're right. The size difference, and that's one of the things when Tesla first announced the NACS months ago, they showed diagrams and they did side-by-side comparisons of how different they are. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for coming on. Where can and I haven't done this in a while. Where can people find you, Paul?
Lately, buried in work, but hopefully I'll get back to my YouTube channel, Electric Canuck, on YouTube.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that'd be good to see. Franklin?
YouTube, Mother Frunker on YouTube, Mother Fork if you like food. And I've been pretty active on Blue Sky. If you're one of the lucky people with an invite, you can find me coding at Blue Sky.
Yeah.
And then for me,
you put out a video yesterday. Sorry, Aaron. And where can we find you?
Just say for me, you can't find me. But if you need to find me, you can talk to Franklin.
Yeah, he's your agent, your manager.
I think my Twitter is private now, so I'm not even going to bother pitching that.
Dax, where can people find you? Because you won't do it otherwise.
Hold on. No, just said here. I miss the days when I could too be on the show.
You can find him at the Tesla store.
Yeah.
Don't
No,
worry,
you-
Matter of
Yeah,
fact,
awesome.
you should, if you're in Canada, the GTA, make sure you find Noah at the Tesla store because he's going to take care of you if you need a new Tesla.
Oh yes. A shameless plug for Noah. If
You
Contact
found me my newest Tesla, so
Yeah.
the same way you can
You
get
need a car.
talk to Aaron. You can contact me, and I can get you in touch with Noah, and he can help you out with your Tesla.
no, we have no problem. I have no problem. No, I don't know if you have any regulations with being a Tesla employee. Could you put your Tesla email here? If you can, put it, and I'll put it up. If you can't, then don't worry about it.
You don't want to do that.
I don't
Don't do that.
Yeah, you
I
don't
don't
want
know
to do
if you're
that.
yeah, don't.
It's a public email, isn't it?
Yeah,
No, it's
anyways.
more about like the amount of email Noah's going to get.
Like
Oh,
it won't even.
the-
Some of it
the
won't be
anti-
even. He'll yeah.
Yeah, you never know. Anyways, to answer your question, Franklin, I don't even bother telling people where they can find me now because if you're watching this or you're listening to this on the audio, well, I guess if you're listening to it on the audio and you want to see what our ugly faces look like, then you can go to YouTube and just search Dax M on YouTube, and you'll find the Regen Channel podcast. And then I'm not. I like to say I'm on Twitter, but I'm hardly on Twitter. I have some. If you're Canadian and you have a Model 3 or Model Y, you can find me on Facebook if you're brave enough to be on Facebook. Under just search for groups for Canadian Model 3 or Canadian Model Y Facebook groups, and then where you'll find me. But thanks for everyone in the chat that participated. Thanks for my panel of guests tonight. It was fun. We haven't done this in a while. We've got to do it more often, but I like to leave you guys alone because I know you're busy and stuff like that. But I do appreciate for your very last minute changing your plans on a Friday night in the summer. I get it. We're all busy. So guys, I really, really do appreciate you guys joining me and taking time out of your schedule.
My pleasure.
Awesome.
Okay, I thought maybe I lost you guys when you paused here for a second. Anyone listening, thanks for joining. We'll see. Like I said, I tried to do, and I have been for the last 2 or 3 months, every 4 weeks. I've been pretty consistent for the podcast, and the next one is coming up sometime in early June. When is it again? I should know this. I didn't want to do this. June. No, is it June? Yeah, it's June. Anyways, I think I want to say it's probably June 14th, but don't quote me on that. But this one was a last minute special podcast. Went away from the schedule, but we'll get back on the schedule for a regular scheduled podcast in June. Check it out on Twitter for all the announcements and stuff. Thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
over and out.
Over and out.
Over. Oh yeah, you didn't do